Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Today we are taking a look at the Evo version of Twincast, which is basically Blaster in more fun colors. Now, as you can see, the majority of the paint apps, whether it's just swapping the colors via molded plastic or the actual paint apps themselves, everything is pretty much the same as far as layout goes. What I did notice is some of the additional detail here and here with these dials, all that is missing on the new version of Twincast. However, one of the things that they did kind of make sure to point out about Twincast was that his Evo fusion ability is using his gun and plugging it into the back of what will become his shoulder, so that from the front it actually looks like an antenna, which again, that port was already there as we see on Blaster, so okay, that's kind of cheap, but we'll let it slide. Now, is it just me, or does it kind of feel like a little bit of a dirty trick that the only way you can get Rewind is by buying Twincast? Now, to be fair, they may release a 4-pack deal like they did for Soundwave as a selects thing, but we don't know that for sure. So again, this is the only way as it stands currently to get that boy. Now, who would I be if I didn't show Twincast off with his Reborn nemesis, Sound Blaster? Which it kind of baffles me why they haven't done this mold in this color scheme. I'm like, you guys, you've already done it in white. However, we know Hasbro will eventually get around to doing that, but as for right now, unfortunately, this is the only kind of crappy iteration of Sound Blaster I have to put up against him in tape deck mode. So why don't we actually finally move on and see how this guy looks in robot mode. Seeing the Blaster mold in his Twincast colors, I always like seeing the guys in their accurate deco, but when I see them in one with a dynamically different color, like how you go from red to blue, and it just looks so cool to see it look so vastly different. Now, that isn't always the case, because as we saw with Rewind and Eject here, when the guy looks like he came from Crystal City versus this, which, yes, it still has a sort of translucent effect, but it looks more in line with what you would expect from his robot mode as opposed to this. So definitely still loving the small cassette boys that came with these guys. We saw in alt mode that some of the paint apps were not what they were supposed to be. And I kind of wondered if you look at this, you can see that part of what was on his leg, this is clearly red plastic molded, but they went in and painted it black. And I thought, well, that would explain why a few of the paint apps were missing, but I look at his deal, and even in his shoulders, how he's got this kind of metallic blue, especially all the detailing on the face. That, while I've been saying that this is the same mold, there is one slight difference, and that is actually in the face, because as you can see, this guy right here has more of a solemn look, whereas if you go over here to Twincast, he has a little bit of that cheeky smirk as opposed to the solemn look. And you can definitely see a little bit in there some of the detailing for his inner chest. I mean, our main boy over here had it too, but that's something that I never picked up on. I knew that Sound Blaster and Soundwave had it, but I guess, apparently missed that small little detail. So here we can see our homeboy is standing right there next to his fellow Reborn nemesis. And like I said earlier in cassette mode, I kind of wish that they do a Sound Blaster version of the Netflix mold. That would look so much better, because while this doesn't look too terrible, a lot of the siege detailing for Sound Blaster just makes him feel like he's a slight bit out of place, especially in comparison to kind of the clean looking aesthetic that our boy Twincast is rocking over here. So kind of like the Optimal Optimus versus the Legacy Megatron, it's that same sort of deal that it doesn't look terrible, but you know, your brain is not letting you get away with the fact that, yeah, something's a slight bit off. However, if you were wanting a little bit of Headmaster's action, don't worry, I got your back. So you can see here that Roddy is backing up our boy Twincast, and also he has support in the form of Minerva and both of his cassette boys. So definitely, I think that these would all look really excellent in a display if you wanted to do, like I said, a little bit of a Headmaster setup. However, I think we all know that Hasbro's kind of focused a little bit more on Victory, but I'm sure the Japanese love will come back around to Headmasters, and we'll maybe get a few more boys to pad out the selection. Now, one of the things that I did mention at the beginning is how this guy really has a lot of fun colors. And I mean, everything from the head sculpt and everything that really just made Blaster all the more awesome. This guy holds in spades just like his predecessor. And like I said before, I like seeing it in more of this blue color scheme with like the red fists and I mean just the little bits on his legs. That's all awesome. And I think it has just dynamic punches of color that help him to stand out a little bit above his original color scheme. So I'm definitely digging that. With that being said, guys, that was our look at the Legacy Evolution version of Twincast and Rewind. So until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.